Everybody, thanks for joining me again today. My name is Matt Gerber. I'm the executive director of the Diamond Allegiance. Really excited to have a fun conversation today with self-proclaimed one of the main cogs in the wheel of the Midwest Canes, Isaac Sampen. Isaac, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Well, let's just jump right in. How'd you fall in love with the game of baseball? Where'd you get your start? Kind of tell us about your playing career from the beginning to the end.
Yeah, well, I mean, my dad played professionally, so I guess naturally that's kind of where my love and affection for the game came from. So I started playing when I was 5 and started in Little League, went to travel ball, and then to the collegiate ranks, and now get the privilege to run a travel baseball org with my dad and my family, and love it.
That's great. So grew up around a dad who played professional baseball. What are some things that he taught you that you not only used in your playing career, but potentially now, as the leader of men, as a coach? Is there anything that kind of sticks out in your mind from him?
I mean, probably the biggest thing would just be a work ethic, um, and just there's going to be days that you don't feel good as a player, you don't feel like working, but ultimately you love the game and you have a passion for the game, a passion for kids, and just staying at it and being consistent and going to work every day. And that's probably the biggest thing that sticks out to me.
How'd you transition from being a player to becoming a coach? That's always an interesting one for me. Like, when did the light bulb go on that, yeah, I might want to actually continue doing this in a different way?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of happened quickly and almost without any thought. So I got done playing, came back to the area, my hometown, and we've had two, or at the time we had one indoor, baseball, softball facility. And we always said that we weren't going to do teams. At least that's what my dad kind of was stuck on, at least for a little while. And we had gotten approached by people throughout the years of, hey, you should do teams, hey, you should do teams, and we just never pulled the trigger on it. But when I came back, he had gotten convinced to coach a team, one team. And I think that word kind of spread, and then it turned to 2 teams, it turned to 3 teams, and then before you know it, we are where we are now and have 33 teams. But that's how it happened. I came back with no intention to coach. Honestly, didn't even really think about coaching because I had just gotten done playing. That was pretty fresh. So I kind of got, thrown into it right after playing, and, I've been doing it ever since.
Oh, you set yourself perfectly up for the next question and perfectly for my next question. So you said you guys kind of started on the team side with, 1, 2, and then all of a sudden 15 and now 33. And I think the fun thing is, a lot of the people that you talk to, that I get to talk to around this industry, who have grown into something bigger, all have the same story. And that's that they started small and were able to grow because they were providing something that was really top notch and really good. So tell me, I guess, the story about the program as a whole. Obviously, you guys now as Canes Midwest, there's a story before that. So I'd love to hear the full story of your guys' program, how it started, why it started, to where you guys are today.
Yeah, well, again, it kind of started per request, and at that time we still feel this way, but we feel like there's a need for a little bit more of a hands-on approach, building relationships with players and families, guiding them through, their own individual process. And so that's why we did it. And I think part of the reason we are where we are now are because of those things. I know we hear stories about it all the time, and some of it's personal experience as well, where, travel baseball could kind of be just kind of roll the ball out there a little
Mhm.
bit. We wanted to be different than that, and I think we are different than that. And so, I think word kind of spread. We were kind of came out of nowhere and had been doing it for 6, 7 years, and had some success, sent a lot of guys on to play at the next level, etc. And so, the timing and stars kind of aligned where me and Jay got together, and had some conversations, and we felt like going with Canes Midwest was definitely the right move for us, for our players, for our families, and ultimately for the program. So
Beautiful. So, you mentioned, kind of being different and, going about things a different way. Can you give me an idea if I'm a player and I contact your organization and I end up signing up and playing for you guys, what does that look like for me? What separates you guys and makes you different than the rest?
yeah, well, I think it's a few things. I mean, a common buzzword nowadays is, player development. Everybody claims that and kind of regurgitates that at a little bit of a nauseating level. But I think part of that, I guess on a relationship side is, we want to be honest with people, honest with families, honest with players, both in, their expectations and our evaluations of, their player or the player. I think that's a separator. We have a pretty hands-on approach. I guess kind of naturally with us having, a couple indoor facilities that we do training out of. We're able to have our players in-house frequently, and they have access to facilities, year round, training year round, and so we get to know our guys at a pretty deep level.
Hmm.
Not just during tournament time. We get to know our guys, be around them frequently, and now with the new facilities that we're working on now, it's even more that way where guys are going to be practicing on site together, outside and inside, and it's just a cool atmosphere where you've got coaches and players and families, ultimately all at the same spot. It just kind of has more of an intimate and family feel, I think.
Love it. So you might again set yourself up really well here, but if you could pick one word to describe your program's identity, what would that be? And as a leader of the organization, how would you say that you try to bear that out on a daily basis?
Yeah, that's a good question. One word. Well, I'll give you a couple words because I'm not sure I'm going to be able to come up with one. But I hope when people play us, they think that we're gritty. We're gritty competitors. At the same token, I hope that they would say that we're pleasant to play against. I see it a lot where whether it's a coaching side, the kids or whatever, but there's some crazy stuff out there. I hope that we're not that way. Respect the game, I guess. I just hope that they feel like we go about our business the right way, and our guys compete hard. In that respect, I hope that we're not any fun to play against.
I like that. You're not fun to play against because you're gritty and respectful. I like that a lot because usually that formula means you're getting your butt kicked on the other side. So obviously it takes a lot of people. You guys are, like you said, up to 33 teams right now, probably only growing from there. It takes a lot of people to pull something like that off at a high level. And I know you could probably spend an hour naming all the people that are involved, but if you could tell me about some of the important people in your program, whether that's coaches, staff, or any other role that they might serve.
Yeah, I mean, we got a bunch of them, and this isn't just I would say everybody. I mean, we we legitimately have a ton of really good, not only players, but families that are willing to, put in time and to help the entire program. Whether, coaches too. I mean, we have coaches out here all the time helping us do little projects here or there, parents, players. It really does take a village when you're taking on something of this magnitude. But I guess to get a little bit more specific, I mean, Jay's been a huge help in that. His background in concrete has been massive already in his contacts there. His contacts with you guys and other folks, that certainly cannot be understated. And then, of course, my family. I mean, we essentially live out here. The sacrifice of time and resources to take a project on like this is significant. And, I want to give them their due too, because a lot of times they're out here when nobody knows that they're out here, and they could be doing something else, on a weekend or after they get done working. So, but yeah, it does take a village, and we're fortunate to have a ton of good people and good coaches in our organization.
Well, I neglected to mention at the top of this that Isaac's joining us, from his car on a cold December day, out at the huge project that he's talking about. So Isaac, clue me in, give our listeners, give everybody that's going to be listening to this, what is the project that you guys are working on right now?
Yeah. So, April of this year, we purchased what was it's formerly called the Hoosier Athletic Center in Brownsburg, Indiana, but it's there's out here. There's currently 4 fields. There's a quad, with a concession area, really nice concession area. And so we've taken that over, and we're actively improving, the fields right now. We're adding 8 turfed cages to the complex. There's going to be, a ton of events and tournaments out here in 2024 and beyond. And then we're also in the process of relocating our indoor facility. We currently have 2. We'll go down to 1 when we build it. We'll build a bigger one where we can just house everybody. On site. And then, futuristically, there's plans for additional fields and so forth. So we're really excited about that. Being able to house all of our families, players, coaches, etc. at one location and, give them improved facilities, which is, certainly needed in this area. And when I kind of look at the landscape in general, facilities are hard to come by. So we feel like that's going to be a huge separator for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was actually something we were together as a group, the Diamond Allegiance up in New York last week. And we were talking with one of our board members, Michelle Smith, on the softball side. And, I think that a lot of times in travel ball, not take for granted, but we look at the places where, some of these major events are held, whether it's, Lake Point or East Cobb or at, spring training sites or, with some of these big parks across the country. But I think what we don't realize is that, the local park has really gone away and the upkeep on them is not great. So the places for kids to go and practice, to go, have a home like this are actually, less than they were probably 15 years ago. So having this as part of your program is truly a separator, and to be able to pull off what you guys want to do, which is that, that family atmosphere, knowing your players, training your players, obviously a huge, huge deal for you guys to be able to add this. Super happy for you guys, obviously, and a really cool project for everybody that's listening to this that lives up that way. An opportunity for you to become a part of a program that's doing things the right way. So, what's one piece of advice that you would give yourself if you could look back to when you first started doing travel ball, something you might have learned along the way, that you could go back and tell yourself?
Well, I'm sure that's a little bit of a laundry list, but um, probably patience would be the first thing that just kind of springs into my head. Patience with players. Because ultimately these are kids, and it is a game, and it should be enjoyable. Obviously, we're competitive. We want to compete, but I think giving kids knowing and feeling like they've got the freedom to fail aggressively is something that I think is greatly lacking when I watch when I go to parks and watch events and such. There seems to be a little bit of a growing sentiment of fear on the field, where guys are playing a little bit timid, a little bit scared. You've got the third base coach, yelling and screaming, and I just don't think it's effective. It was never a motivating thing for me. So I think, giving guys the freedom to fail, and them knowing and believing that, and then using, their failures as teaching moments. I think that was one thing that I've tried to build on continuously, and will continue to do so until I'm no longer needed in the coaching space. So
That's a really good one, and I think it ties back to what you said, and will probably be the answer to your next question. But at the end of the day, it's whoever is involved in this ecosystem, this travel ball world that is crazy at times. The reason that they got into it was for the kids, right, and for the families. And I think the more that you can go back and remind yourself that, and take a deep breath, it's important. I think one piece of advice I'd have for travel ball coaches out there, whether part of the Dime Regents or not, I asked this question to another one of our members, and his response was, "It doesn't matter," right? And he said it not in the fact that it doesn't matter, because what we're doing is so important in terms of raising up the next generation of coaches, players, just general good human beings. But what he meant by that was, if I don't win a tournament this weekend, it's going to be okay, right? And just understanding that we all, as adults in the situation, we wouldn't be here if we weren't competitive people. And competitive people typically are pretty successful in life, and you want to raise competitive players. So you can't take the competition out of it, but at the same time, understanding what your role is and why you're there. So really, Isaac, loved the analogy, not the analogy, but the real world application of giving kids space to fail and having them lose from those failures, is really, really good insight. So, what gets you most excited then about being part of the travel ball world? Why do you continue to do it, and why do you get up every day to go, work on projects like you're doing?
Well, it's the kids. I mean, when I look back at experiences that I've had, a lot of what we're doing are things that I felt like were lacking. Whether it's the coaching side that I kind of mentioned, where guys have the freedom to fail, or the facility side of things, or the access to facilities and training opportunities and things like that. That's why. I am not going to settle for less than. Our players are going to have the best here. And so ultimately they're by far the driving force of all of this. It's them, it's the kids.
I got two more questions for you. This next one could be loaded, and it take you as long or as short as you want to. But if there were such a thing, right? If there were the commissioner of travel baseball, and all of the stars were aligned, and you were that person, Isaac, you were in charge of everything, travel baseball related. What's one thing you wish you could change?
Well, the first thing that jumps in my head is stay to play, but that seems like too easy of an answer. I mean, I guess just the community side of it, and I guess what I mean by that is, there tends to be a lot of tribalism, I think, in travel sports. And I get it from the competitive side of stuff. But I think as organizations, as coaches, just I think there's so many cool things that we could do together whilst competing on the field, and so I guess if there was one thing that I would change, it would probably be that a little bit less tribalism, a little bit more working together, a little bit more putting our heads together to figure out ways to make opportunities more accessible for everyone, regardless of their background. And that frankly, that's one thing that has drawn me to Diamond Allegiance is that. So that would probably be my answer.
Promise, I did not pay him to say that. Full disclosure up front.
No, you did not.
And again, I think it sounds like you wrote this interview, but my last question was what drew you to the Diamond Allegiance? And you've just answered that, but so I'll follow up there then. Where do you see the Diamond Allegiance 5 years from now?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess just to reiterate that, what drew me to it was, your guys' mission of making things more accessible for everyone. And I guess, where do I see that in 5 years? I think that continues to expand, that there is better access. The barrier to entry that threshold is lower. And ultimately, that's good for players and families. They're able to get more, to have access to more, to have better facilities, et cetera, whatever the case may be. So, that perfectly aligns with what we're doing, whether it's on the facility side of stuff or elsewhere. But, that's where I see it going. And I think you guys are going to knock it out of the park.
Certainly appreciate that, and certainly appreciate your time today. Obviously, I think two-way street, Canes Midwest, adding a guy like you only helps bolster them. But obviously, you being able to take the Canes name and continue to drive it forward in your area. The Canes have obviously gotten an incredible person, incredible family that cares about the players in that area. So, obviously in my mind, just a great marriage of people and organization, and excited to see what you guys do going forward. I appreciate your time today, Isaac, and look forward to catching up again soon.
Yep. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.